I just felt entitled to it as well. It was just dysfunctional from day one.
You know, as kids, I used to put on heels. I used to do all those things. I try to put on whatever my sisters wear. When one of my sisters did, I try to do those things.
They went to the back and there was a bunch of old and young boys back there, all naked in the Wade house. So I find it funny that Gabrielle's sitting there talking about boo.
I just felt entitled to it as well. It was just dysfunctional from day one. You know, as kids, I used to put on heels. I used to put on heels, do you? All those things I try to put on whatever my sisters be. Whatever my sisters did, I try to do those things. They went to the back. And it was a bunch of old and young boys back there, all naked in the Wade house. So I find it funny that Gabrielle's sitting there talking about buoy. So word on the street is that Gabrielle Union is low-key, getting her ducks in a row to serve Dwayne Wade with divorce paper. And the tea is that she allegedly caught him stepping out on her with a man. Now there's this one blind item that spilled the beans on Dwayne, saying he was up to no good with another lady on the side. But some other sources are now chirping that Dwayne might have strayed in a different direction with a dude. And let me tell you, for those who've been peeping behind the scenes, this is not exactly a surprise. And some fans are even speculating that Gabrielle knew all along that Dwayne was bisexual. But she just didn't want it to go public. Also, stories keep popping up saying that Dwayne and Gabrielle love to throw some wild parties at their crib. So is this really the end of the road for Gabrielle and Dwayne? And will Gabrielle spill the beans on Dwayne's secret? Let's break it all down. Gabrielle Union recently did an interview with Sway and said this he eats her. Then does that mean she has to eat the man? If we're talking about, equal time here, Wise really aren't, at least the ones I know aren't really into that's what they say. Okay, so I don't know if I'm more surprised that she admitted that she eats booty or that he likes it. So like I said, there's been a lot of talk about Gabrielle and Dwayne hosting some kind of, let's say, unconventional parties at their residence where older Hollywood gentlemen are entertained by much younger men, and rumors are going around that Gabrielle knew from the jump that Dwayne swings both ways. Now we all know that the rumors about Dwayne being on the DL are nothing new, but recently multiple insiders from the entertainment industry have come forward with some pretty wild claims. And these speculations didn't just pop out of thin air, honey. They are actually rooted in comments from individuals who used to work closely with Dwayne. Back in 2010, Dwayne's former business partner, Richard Von Humpman, alleged that Dwayne used to host secretive substance-fueled gatherings while still married to his first wife. Siobhan Fes Richard recalled one incident at Dwayne's 4-bedroom high-rise apartment where the cleaning crew discovered quite the mess. I went down there, and what I saw was disgusting. Richard said the apartment was trashed and filthy, and it wasn't the first time he described finding used condoms on the floor, empty champagne and hard liquor bottles, nearly finished blunts, and half-eaten food writing on tables and furniture. Dwayne and his crew hosted these parties several times a week, inviting rouse guests, primarily rappers and women. They meet in clubs. These alleged gatherings continued even after Dwayne's divorce from his first wife and his relationship with Gabrielle. And Richard implied that Gabrielle would often partake in these parties. Now, Richard didn't explicitly mention Dwayne engaging with other men at these parties, but given the allegations from other insiders, it definitely makes you wonder what went down at these parties. What's also worth pointing out is that Dwayne's ex-wife claimed during their divorce that Dwayne infected her with an STD around 2007, which coincides with the period when Richard alleged Dwayne started throwing these wild parties. And despite Dwayne's attempts to sue his ex-wife for defamation of character, the rumors surrounding his sexuality persisted. Dwayne himself accidentally fueled these speculations when he admitted he used to dress up in women's clothing. In one interview that's been making the rounds lately, Dwayne shared his thoughts supporting his daughter Zia when she came out as transgender, and he revealed that in his younger days, he used to enjoy wearing his sister's clothes and heels when it hit my doorstep at 3 years old. Like I said, when me and my wife looked at each other, right? And reason we looked at each other is because of this. As kids, I used to put on heels. I used to do all those things. I try to put on whatever my sisters did. I try to do those things. So at first I said to myself, oh no, I did that. So I just doing the things that I did. And then it kept going further. and further. And then me and my wife had to look at each other and say, well, what if? And at that moment, everything that I was taught went out the window because now I'm a parent and my sole job and my sole responsibility is to make sure that this kid grew up knowing that is supported and is loved. Now speaking of Dwayne's daughter, Zia, there's also been controversy surrounding Dwayne and Gabrielle's parenting choices. Dwayne's ex-wife, Pan, claimed that they forced Z's gender transition for financial gain, and she accused them of exploiting Z's gender identity for attention. Another issue surfaced when Dwayne and Gabrielle filed to legally change Zia's name and gender before she turned 18 without consulting her birth mother, despite a custody agreement with Pan that should have involved her in such decisions. Pan actually tried to block this request, and she took legal action by submitting official documents to show that according to the custody agreement she had previously negotiated with Dwayne, he is obligated to discuss with her and obtain from her input in the major decisions affecting their 2 children, but the court granted Dwayne and Gabrielle's request to change 15-year-old Zia's legal identity, and Dwayne then fired back at Pan and accused her of centering herself and her needs without regard to her children. Now this statement didn't sit well with many fans who took to social media to say that Dwayne and Gabrielle were the ones centering themselves in Zia's situation. And at the same time, rumors about Dwayne and Gabrielle's unconventional marriage and secret parties continued to circulate, and then Jaguar Wright alleged in an interview that this is something that happens a lot in the industry and that many Hollywood couples, including Will and Jada Joe and Mark Anthony and now the Wades, partake in some wild activities. Jaguar also claimed that these gatherings moved from the Smiths to the Wades after the entanglement situation. They ain't doing as much, I guess, now because they're getting old. I guess it just moved over to the Wade house. Now Jaguar clarified that her statements have nothing to do with Dwayne and Gabrielle support Zia's transition, and she explained that she heard from many young men in the industry that they personally witnessed questionable and disturbing activities at one of the Wade's house parties. I'm saying that because of the artist that I just spoke to not that long ago that got invited to a party at their house, everything was cool up front. So they went to the back, and there was a bunch of old anning young boys back there all naked in the Wade house. So I find it funny that Gabrielle's sitting there talking about Bowie. Jaguar also blasted Gabrielle for her comments about Bowie, suggesting that Gabrielle was projecting her husband's issues onto others. That Gabrielle sitting there talking about Bowie, maybe you suspicious of him because of that's happening in your house. Out of here, these be talking greasy on all kinds of, but I don't like when these so-called Black Hollywood couples want to come in, and then they want to sit there and play gatekeeper. Meanwhile, they were and misusing all kinds of young people, and guess what? Don't nobody want to admit that they a victim, so they pretend to be friends. And in case you missed the situation between Gabrielle and Boy publicly called